We hereby demand that they use this power, and until such time that they do, it's time for them to pay a very big price. Now she's saying 70% of the illegal weapons that are seized from criminals in Mexico come from you. You guys make the guns that come down here.
I'm calling on Prime Minister Trudeau to put partisanship aside and in the spirit of Team Canada to accept that he cannot go ahead with quadrupling the carbon tax to 61 cents a litre. This was an irresponsible policy.
Trump is back, baby. He's not playing around, especially on this tariff business. He dropped 2 truth posts explaining things are not going to be the same anymore now that Dad's home. And we've also got reaction from China, Mexico, and Canada, all getting a little bit nervous that this is the new change. 2 posts from the president. He says, 1, I have had many talks with China about the massive amount of drugs, in particular fentanyl, being sent into the United States, but to no avail. Representatives of China told me that they would institute their maximum penalty, that of death, for any drug dealers caught doing this. But unfortunately, they never followed through, and drugs are pouring into our country, mostly through Mexico, at levels never seen before. Until such time as they stop, we will be charging China an additional 10% tariff above any additional tariffs on all of their many products coming into the United States of America. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Truth number 2. As everyone is aware, thousands of people are pouring through Mexico and Canada, bringing crime and drugs at levels never seen before. Right now, a caravan coming from Mexico, composed of thousands of people, seems to be unstoppable in its quest to come through our currently open border. On January 20th, as one of my many first executive orders, I will sign all necessary documents to charge Mexico and Canada a 25% tariff on all products coming into the United States and its ridiculous open borders. This tariff will remain in effect until such time as drugs, in particular fentanyl, and all illegal aliens stop this invasion of our country. Both Mexico and Canada have the absolute right and power to easily solve this long simmering problem. We hereby demand that they use this power, and until such time that they do, it's time for them to pay a very big price. And we're here for it. It's about time that a president stands up for America and Americans and stops allowing our country to be exploited at the benefit of other nations who send drugs and criminals into our country. Now, this is causing a response, as you can imagine, around the world. We've got Mexico, Canada, and China who are weighing in and responding to this. In fact, this is the Chinese Karine Jean-Pierre, who's a lot less talkative, says that they posted this on November 26 in response to this. Now, this is a transcript since we do not speak Mandarin here. And here are some of the questions that came in. Now, the first question on the Trump saga came from Reuters. Here's what Reuters said in Mandarin. They said, Miss Mao Ning is the Chinese Karine. They said, U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has pledged big tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China. Trump said that the U.S. would impose an additional 10% tariff above any other additional tariffs on China on the reason that Beijing has not taken strong enough action to stop the flow of fentanyl crossing into the U.S. from Mexico. Does the Chinese ministry have any comment on this? Mao Ning, the Chinese Karine, says, I just noted what you mentioned, and we will respond to that later. So the Wall Street Journal is next. Great, I get a question finally. Chinese Karine, following up on the previous question, I understand if you don't have any comment yet specifically on the announcement, but could you confirm, has China reached out to the Trump transition team to try to talk about this issue yet? And if so, is there any plans for talks before Donald Trump takes office in January? Chinese Karine, I have no information to share. Let me say more broadly that we are open to dialogue and communication, period. Wall Street Journal's like, all right. They ask about someone visiting China from some other country, and she has a nice response here. Look at that response. So she ChatGPT's that one out. And then we get another question from China Daily. They ask her about Mexico. In her morning press conference on November 22nd, Mexican President Sheinbaum said that the idea that Chinese products are entering the United States and Canada through Mexico is false. She said, it's not happening. Mexican government will show to the US and Canadian governments that Chinese products are not entering the two countries through Mexico, and that they enter through all other channels in terms of trade, everything else except Mexico. She also noted that they have a plan with the aim of substituting these imports that come from China and producing them in Mexico Mexico. So the Mexicans are saying, well, if Trump's going to be mad at us for taking stuff from China, then we're just going to not take stuff from China. We'll just make it in Mexico. What's China's comment about that? Chinese Korean says, China noted President Sheinbaum's remarks. China carries out trade cooperation with other countries in accordance with international rules and principles. We always believe that politicizing economic issues serves no one's interests like theirs. China and Mexico are good friends and trust each other, good partners. Imports from China have played an important role in Mexico. Maintaining sound economics is good for both sides. So then Bloomberg comes in. They're going to ask about Trump. They say, all right, listen, Chinese Korean. In his social media post, Trump seemed to complain that China hadn't done enough to stem the flow of fentanyl to the U.S. Would the ministry like to comment on this? Does China believe that it has done enough to stop the flow and done enough with the agreements made with the U.S. on this? Chinese Korean. We've shared on multiple occasions what has been achieved in China-U.S. counter-narcotics cooperation. On your specific question, we will respond to that yesterday. They ask about Russian drones, they ask about Myanmar, and that's it. No further questions from Chinese Korean. All right, so that's what's happening in China. Now, she mentioned something about the president of Mexico, whose name is Claudia Sheinbaum, rebukes Trump and says, oh, we're going to hit you with tariffs of our own. Trump says that your plan is not going to do anything to stem the flow of migrants into your country. She says the plan is going to be followed by another tariff. One tariff would be followed by another in response, and so on until we put at risk common businesses, she said, warning that tariffs could cause inflation and job losses in both countries. She says, what sense is there? Well, it's to stop illegal invasions of drugs and people into our country. That's the sense. Sheinbaum's comments came after Trump said on Monday that as one of his actions, he 25% going right onto Mexico and Canada. Now, this tariff will remain in effect until the illegals stop. It's unclear if the proposal would even be legal or possible, they say. Well, get ready for it. Given that the three countries share a free trade agreement that has already been negotiated, but as analysts pointed out, Trump has never been one to abide by the rules. Give me a break. You guys are the ones who keep violating the Supreme Court precedent. You're not even enforcing the laws on the books about securing the borders wide open. Did we really think that Trump was going to become more institutional or more formal? Says the Mexican person, economist. Mexico is the U.S.'s top trading partner as of September, 15% of our trade. Ooh, it's going to be expensive. According to Rios, a 25% tariff could cost the U.S. economy $125 billion over 10 years, while costing its GDP 0.05 to 0.74. Yeah, but how much revenue is it going to generate? And how many new jobs will be onshored back into the United States? With such steep tariffs, U.S. economies importing Mexican goods would undoubtedly have to raise their prices. The main victim will be the American consumer because we know the companies who are doing the importing pay the tariff fees, which we understand that. That could end up costing Trump politically. No, because we want the illegal immigration to stop. One of the main reasons that Trump's campaign was successful, they say, blah, 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 is because he's speaking truth. So we know that. Now, here is what she was saying out there in the media. So this is Claudia Sheinbaum, the president of Mexico. This is what she looks and sounds like. The subtitles are at the bottom.
Y Ford Motor Company, las cuales llegaron a México hace 80 años.
American companies came here 80 years ago. They're going to tax them, put them at risk.
No es aceptable y causaría a Estados Unidos y a México inflación y pérdidas de empleo. El 70% de las armas ilegales incautadas a delincuentes.
Now she's saying 70% of the illegal weapons that are seized from criminals in Mexico come from you. You guys make the guns that come down here.
En México proviene de su país. Las armas
we don't produce
no las
weapons.
Producimos nosotros.
We don't use drugs.
Las drogas sintéticas no las consumimos nosotros. Los muertos por la delincuencia para responder a la demanda de drogas.
Our people are being killed by crime responding to your country's drug demands. So you crackhead American drug addict losers, maybe if you stop snorting so much cocaine in your nose, Hunter, we wouldn't have such a problem.
Su país, lamentablemente, lo ponemos nosotros.
All right, so I think she's blaming us for being drug addicts, which is interesting. And I guess she's going to tariff something on us. We'll tariff them and they'll tariff us back. And okay, we're here for it. We don't want illegal immigrants. We don't want fentanyl coming across the border. If we have to pay a little bit more for whatever, we're here for it. That's a trade we're happy to take. So Reuters was also responding. You can see tariffs do not solve immigration or drug consumption problem, she says, responding to Trump. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum said on Tuesday that neither threats nor tariffs are going to solve any of this. Trump's going to be sworn in, 25% coming in hot, and they are bracing for impact. Now, the border is going to be cleaned up one way or another. We'll hit Tom Holman now, then we'll go to Canada. But Tom Holman is saying, yeah, the border is going to be cleared up, okay? There are going to be mass deportations, and so just get with the program.
What you've done is not only protect the state of Texas and the citizens of Texas, you are protecting this nation. It's a shame we have other governors and other mayors who are right out of the gate. I said they're going to push back on President Trump and what we're trying to do, especially for interior enforcement. enforcement. Let me be clear. There is going to be a mass deportation because we just finished a mass illegal immigration crisis on the border where anybody can look at 9 out of 10 people claim asylum at the border will end up with an order removal. So you can't ask for the right to claim asylum, the right to see a judge, the right to due process, and we give you that due process, and at the end of that due process, a federal judge orders you removed, we have to remove them. Because if we don't, shut down immigration court. Those orders don't mean anything anymore. Take you guys off the border because there's no consequences. So you can't demand due process and the right to claim asylum and not obey the court order. That is why there needs to be a mass deportation. We have a mass number of people, millions of people who will get a final order and be order removed. If we don't do it, what is the option? Let them stay? Because if you let them stay, you'll never fix the border. There'll be companies, you're going to send a message to the rest of the world. Enter the country legally, which is a crime. Ignore a court order, you never have to go home. We're telling the whole world it's okay to enter this country legally, you never got to go home. We're a nation of laws, and we're going to enforce the laws. The men and women of ICE, they're going to have a tough job ahead of them. And I'm sending a message for people that said they're going to get in our way. They're going to stop us from doing what we're doing in terror enforcement operation. I've said it 100 times in the last week. Don't cross that line. It's a felony to knowingly harbor and conceal an illegal alien from immigration authorities.
Right.
Don't test us. The nation wants a safe country. We've had enough crime in this country of illegal alien crime. It's time to end it and stop it. President Trump's committed to it. He's committed to securing this border. He's committed to having this mass deportation operation and concentrating on public safety threats and national security threats. For any mayor or governor who's going to push back on removing public safety threats from your community, that is your number one responsibility. You ought to be teaming up with us. We have created the biggest national security vulnerability in this nation on the southern border. Because like I said, 2 million known gotaways. We don't know how many unknown gotaways.
Terrible numbers. And he is talking like he means some serious business. So we're happy to see that change of urgency from this administration. So little different vibe there. You know what I mean? We're happy to see the change. Now, speaking of vibes and bad vibes, this is the dictator of Canada. We don't talk about him a lot because he's so terrible, but Justin Trudeau is now going to report he just got off the phone with President Trump, and here's how it went.
I had a good call with Donald Trump last night again. We obviously talked about laying out the facts, talking about how the intense and effective connections between our two countries flow back and forth. We talked about some of the challenges that we can work on together. It was a good call. This is something that we can do. Laying out the facts, moving forward in constructive ways. This is a relationship that we know takes a certain amount of working on, and that's what we'll do. One of the really important things is that we be all pulling together on this.
He has said nothing this entire time. What has he said?
Team Canada approach is what works. That's where, putting aside partisanship, that's where I reached out immediately to Doug Ford to agree with him that we would have First Ministers meeting this week to talk about the United States, talk with François Legault and some other premiers as well. There's work to do, but we know how to do it.
This guy's one of the most pathetic leaders of all time. He just talks in platitudes. We have to be nonpartisan, we have to work together, we can do this. I've spoken to a lot of people, it was good. He's talking in circles, and you can basically see in his body language, he's pretty uncomfortable about this whole development. He was hoping that Kamala would win, and then they could, I don't know what they would do together. I didn't want to think about it. But all right, so that's him. Now, on the other side, this is Pierre Poilievre, who is also from Canada, who came in and talked about some of this, says that Trudeau needs to heed this message.
The United States is the greatest economic and military superpower in the history of the world, and they are our neighbor. President Trump yesterday made an unjustified threat of a 25% tariff on our already weak and shrinking economy. Justin Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland were surprised. 20 days ago, Chrystia Freeland said, "Don't worry, Canada will be fine." Apparently, neither she nor Justin Trudeau were following what the incoming president was saying. Our economy is teetering on the brink of collapse, and now we face this renewed threat.
Yeah, maybe Canada should arrest some more Freedom Convoy protesters and seize their bank accounts from them. Maybe that'll help.
We need a plan to put Canada first on the economy.
That's right. You should have a Canada first plan. That's right.
To start with, on the economy, I'm calling on Prime Minister Trudeau to put partisanship aside and in the spirit of Team Canada to accept that he cannot go ahead with quadrupling the carbon tax to 61 cents a litre. This was an irresponsible policy to begin with.
What?
But combining this kind of crippling energy tax increase with potential tariffs from Donald Trump
In Canada, they're quadrupling carbon taxes? What the heck?
would push our economy into a nightmare and a tailspin. So let's put partisanship aside and axe the tax.
Axe it.
Second,
Do it.
Prime Minister has to put aside partisanship and in the spirit of Team Canada, cancel his energy cap, which would see Alberta and Saskatchewan produce 35% less energy.
What a ridiculous
At a
thing.
time when we need those jobs. It is our biggest industry and our biggest export.
And he wants to
The incoming
kneecap you
American
guys.
president says he wants to cut gas prices in half. Well, the only way to do it will be to import more clean Canadian energy. So the Prime Minister
Well, not
has to
really. We're
stop
going to
this
drill the
assault
hell out of this this place,
on our
okay?
biggest industry.
But we'll also buy your cheap oil
Next,
too.
he has to cancel all tax increases.
Yes.
Tax increases on work, investment,
Yes.
and making stuff in Canada. About a week ago, Justin Trudeau admitted that he broke our immigration system, and that brings new challenges. His own published documents show there are 4.9 million people here temporarily.
They got
We
illegals
asked
too?
what the plan was to track their departures, and yesterday his immigration minister said, we're just going to take people at their word. What is the plan
Hey, that's
to
what we
protect
do.
our security and reinstate
Not for long.
sovereignty over who is in our country? Military. Justin Trudeau has demolished our military with poor decisions, botched procurements, and wasted money. One thing he could do today is announce that his planned billion-dollar cut to the military is canceled, and then present a real plan to reallocate money away from lower priorities towards rebuilding our military and reinforcing our military security over North America. And finally, on drugs. I don't want to stop drug overdoses to please Donald Trump.
Yeah, good call.
I want to stop drug overdoses so that there's not one more mother with her face buried in a pillow,
Good call.
sobbing that she just lost her kid after 47,000 other Canadians have died. That's more than we lost in the Second World War. A 200% annual increase in drug overdose deaths have resulted from Justin Trudeau's radical liberalization of drugs.
Aren't they suiciding people
Justin
too up
Trudeau
there too?
must put partisanship aside, not just for the sake of
Or
Team Canada,
peaceful exits?
but for
Whatever
the
they-
sake of our people, and fully reverse his liberalization of drugs.
Amazing. So shout out to Pierre Poilievre, who is representing Canada. Canada should be Canada first. So should Mexico, right? All of these countries should be Mexico first, Canada first. I'm not upset about that at all. Guess what? We're America first, all right? And we're making some changes. So if you got to make some changes too, make some changes. We're all for it because that's how things work. Well, actually, nice statement from him. Trudeau on his back heels, and Americans seem to be liking what's happening with the Trump transition. Here is what CNN was reporting on these transition numbers.
Take a look here. President Trump's transition net approval. You go back to November of 2016. Look at this. It was just a plus 1 point. That is well below the historical norm. Look at where we are today. Significantly higher. Plus 18 points. That's 17 points higher on the presidential transition net approval rating. The bottom line is this. If 8 years ago Americans were lukewarm on Donald Trump, at this particular point, they're giving him much more the benefit of the doubt. A lot more Americans are in love with this transition. This much more meets the historical norms where normally presidents get that boost coming out of their victory. And what we're seeing here is Donald Trump's presidential transition is getting a thumbs up and, dare I say, 2 thumbs up from the American people.
And, you know,
Wow.
we're still on the appointment phase at this point, but it does give insight to sort of where this team is thinking to lead some of these key departments, of course. I mean, but how do people feel about the prospects of his presidency, given the context of some of these picks?
Yeah, it's not just that they like what Donald Trump is doing right now. They're optimistic for the future. So, again, let's compare ourselves now versus where we were 8 years ago. And what you see 8 years ago, 53% of Americans were scared or concerned, the majority towards the upcoming Trump term. Look at where we are now. The shoe is on the other foot. 53% of Americans are excited or optimistic.
About a
It's flip-flop,
dictatorship?
where a narrow majority 8 years ago were scared
They're
or
happy about
concerned
being
about the upcoming Trump
in a
term.
dictatorship.
Now what we
Real.
see is that the majority is excited
Americans.
or optimistic about the Trump term. So what we're just seeing is very different numbers from where we were 8 years ago. 8 years ago, folks really were not that in love with the Trump transition. Now they are, and more than that, looking forward to the upcoming Trump term. 8 years ago, the majority were scared or concerned. Now the majority are excited or
Yeah.
optimistic.
And
Dictatorships
look,
are in.
The reality is for
Nice.
these cabinet picks, they've got to get confirmed by the Senate here. And so I think rightfully so, a lot of concern has gone into, okay, where will Republicans
Insurrection's
fall,
so hot right
in
now.
supporting these picks since they are the majority. But
Top 40.
Democrats were
Insurrection.
also very opposed to Trump's picks and his presidency overall in 2017 coming in. Where are they now?
I think one word to describe Democrats now is just they're exhausted. They're tired. You know, it's very hard being in the opposition. Donald Trump wears out his opponents, and I think they've done that here. So Democrats, Trump's win motivates me in what way to do things? Just 44% say to oppose Donald Trump. The majority, the 56%, either 46%, it doesn't motivate me at all, which I think is really the exhaustion pick, right? This is the plurality. Or 10% say it actually motivates them to support Donald Trump. Together, these numbers get 56%, far higher than the 44% who say oppose Donald Trump. The bottom line is this. Republicans very motivated by Donald Trump's win, and compared to 8 years ago, Democrats just really tired. They have just given up. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, they're tired, man. They see the illegal immigrants. They see the crime. They see the inflation. They see the wars. They see the censorship. They're sick of it too. I'd be exhausted too. If like I'm fighting for these people and my life gets worse every day. Every time they touch something, my life gets worse. Could you imagine how tiring that would be? You'd be like, showing up to a game, fighting hard, losing all the time, and you're worse off for it. That's Trump, and the Democrats should be exhausted because they just got obliterated. So great news there. Tariffs are coming in hot. We're here for it, my friends. Time to make America great again. Thanks for subscribing and joining as we do.